Mr. Sean Bell, round two. Thanks for joining me, brother.
Mate, thanks for having me.
We caught up for the first time on Christmas Eve in 2024.
We did too, yeah.
What do you think's been your biggest learning since then?
Oof, it's been a huge, just over 12 months, hey.
Yeah.
To pin it down to one lesson, I would say that you can plan your life with, real conscious intent as to when you're going to do things, and you can prepare for adversity like I did on the run around Australia, but sometimes life is just going to hit you when you don't expect, and that was my 2025.
So you were preparing, when you say prepare, did you think your life was going to be different to what it is now, let's just say?
Well, what I mean by that is 2024 I knew was going to be hell because I was putting myself through it voluntarily. I was running around Australia 84 Ks a day for nearly 6 months straight. So you're gonna go through all sorts of pain, physically, mentally. But sometimes life just, knocks you down, and it's very humbling. And I think that, if you approach it in the right way, understand that there's different seasons of life, and sometimes it's just about recovering and literally surviving what's going on, and know that you'll come out bigger and better through processing it properly and actually feeling it. So, yeah, 2025 was a huge year.
Do you think people get caught up in the planning of life, let's just say?
I think so, but I also think that people can do it better. I think that the greatest athletes, the greatest entrepreneurs, the greatest at anything are very intentional and deliberate. And even in 2025, one of my highlights of last year was I had a speaking event alongside Kevin Sheedy. So I was the speaker before him, and that was basically his message. And I thought, this is pretty cool. I'm 27, he's 77. We're 50 years apart, but we're almost reinforcing the same message to the group that we were speaking to. He's like, be intentional, be deliberate. That's how I ran around Australia and reverse engineered that goal for 6 years. And that's how he lived such a great life as an AFL player and coach. But I think that there's room for planning and executing on your goals in your life, but also sometimes life just doesn't go to plan, and you need to be able to be resilient when that happens.
Does that make it, like, because I've set forward how I want things to go, but they don't always happen the way I want them to.
Yeah.
But I think the longer and the more you get exposed to, the more you just like, I can deal with anything that sort of comes my way. Is that how you sort of see things now?
I think so, yeah. Once you go through like what I did around Australia, that builds so much resilience. And I think, so for context to the people listening, I went through three of the hardest things that I've experienced. I'm sure people have gone through worse, but three very hard things within an 8-week period. Basically, after my run around Australia in 2024, 3 days later, I moved to Sydney and was planning my life with my now ex-partner, Chloe. And we split up in late August 2025. And as part of that move, I moved back to Melbourne to be closer to family because my old man was really unwell. He then passed away in October of 2025, and literally 2 days after his passing, I ended up in hospital with a fully collapsed right lung. That was terrifying. I thought I was having a heart attack when it first happened. I couldn't breathe, had really severe chest pain. Went into hospital, ended up having 2 full weeks in hospital, had surgery, had to leave hospital on my own admission against medical advice to go to Dad's funeral, only to go back in. So it was just like fucking hell to go through all of that in an 8-week period. That's what I mean by resilience. And, you can do hard things like run around Australia, and it definitely shaped me and prepared me for some of these moments. But sometimes life will just go whack. It's funny, people say that it always hits you in threes, because that was a pretty harsh 3. I think one of those events in isolation would really knock anyone around. But to go through that at the same time was really challenging. But, that mental fortitude that I've built over the years of ultra endurance has definitely helped me in that.
I think you used the words, it broke me.
It did, mate. It did. And I think that, again, we come back to the run around Australia, that broke me too, but broke me in a different way.
What do you mean by broke?
Well, if we look at the run firstly, as like physically, you knew it was coming. Anyone, it's going to happen to anyone running a double marathon a day for nearly 6 months straight, no matter how well conditioned you are. But broke me to the level of like, I was just hurting. I had no words. Like I had no capacity. I've never been so low. as I was in that, 8-week period that I'm talking about, where I just like every day was a struggle. And for someone who's so future focused and planning their goals and stuff, it literally stripped it all right back to get through today. And that's really hard. Like I was just, mental health was really down, and I was just wanted to be around family and try and work through what I was going through. Yeah.
I was going to start this question. I was going to start the podcast by this question, but it was something that I wanted to just ask when you were going through that period, and it was like, how are you going?
Thank you, mate. Yeah. It's interesting. I haven't done a podcast since, and even in 2025, I started to do a lot more keynote speaking, and my last keynote was actually in July of 2025. And I look back and I'm like, I'm actually grateful that that's how it played out, because I just wouldn't have had the capacity to be up on stage and truly be my energetic self and inspiring. And I think you've got to
explain that again. So you were glad it played out.
I was glad that it played out in the way where I didn't have a keynote in the back half of 2025.
Of course.
Because I just wouldn't have had the capacity to truly impact at the level that I pride myself on, but also at the level that people deserve. I think when you're going through it, you're in it. So it's very hard to separate from, like, as a professional speaker, the last thing you can do is go up there and trauma dump. You need to be controlled. You need to be like, this is some adversity I've been through, and this is what I've learned, and this is how it can help you. When you're going right through that, you don't have the capacity. You've got to work through it. You've got to process it. And I think a big part of that is feeling it and not hiding from it, not avoiding it, really facing it head on and understanding what it felt like to lose who I thought would be my long-term partner, lose my dad at the same time, who, has shaped so much of my life, and I wouldn't be the person I am without him. And then to end up in a hospital, which I'd never experienced like that, for 2 full weeks and have surgery. It was just a lot at once. So, I'm excited now. I've had time to process, reflect and grow, and 2026 is going to be a big year.
What did the lowest time look like? Was it just an accumulation of that whole 8 weeks, or?
Yeah, well, I think it's interesting. And look, I'm not someone who is typically into Eastern medicine, Eastern health, looked at it all that much. But what I found really interesting is I had 3 different people message me and say, this can't be a coincidence that your lung has collapsed, because apparently the number one organ affected by grief is the lungs. And I mean, like, I've been grieving for 6 weeks, and then dad passed. And then 2 days later, I was in hospital with a lung collapse, and a fully collapsed lung, like to the point where, had we not taken action, gone to hospital, then I could have died that night. That's the reality, is my whole right side lung had collapsed. And if that then presses onto the other side, it can cause you to pass away. So I had what's called a spontaneous pneumothorax, if anyone wants to look that up. And it can progress into a tension pneumothorax. I was in the gym and just knew something wasn't right. And thankfully there was another coach there. And look, when I say it wasn't right, I couldn't really breathe properly. I had chest pain, but we were well enough to make the call to the ambulance together, me and her. And then they come in, they check my heart was fine on the ECG, but I was like complaining about right side chest pain. And they get out the stethoscope where they listen, and they said, no, we can't hear anything on the right side. You must have a collapsed lung. So rushed me to emergency. And then that was, the 2 weeks that followed. Just crazy. So in terms of my lowest point, I don't know. I've always prided myself on being able to get through really hard things. And I guess it just pushed me to another level. And that's what I'm trying to say to, you can prepare for these things and come at it with intention and be really deliberate in your approach, and you can future plan, and I do everything that you're doing, but sometimes life will just smack you down. And I think that you need to be able to bounce back in that moment. And that was something that I had to really go through.
Yeah, it's interesting. I haven't had anything. Like I say to myself, like, I'm prepared for whatever comes my way, but I've never had anything that's like rocked me to my core.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I'm expecting it, but like every single thing that I read and all the research that I've done in absorbing like entrepreneurs and all that sort of stuff, it's like there's something that just rocks you to the core.
Yeah, it's a great point. And I think I was the same. And I've lost people. I've had, a lot of loss and adversity through my time. Lost a teammate when I was 18, which ultimately taught me how precious life is and the importance of going and getting it and chasing my dreams and helping others chase theirs, which is how the Run Around Oz was born. I lost my coach in 2022, Jace, who shaped my life as well in such a big way. He made me go from the athlete that I wanted to be to that athlete, like the athlete that I dreamed of, to genuinely that athlete capable of running from Cairns to Melbourne and 2 years later around Australia. So, these were big things that taught me a lot about life and adversity at a young age. But to then experience the loss of your dad, that's huge. And pair that just with what was going on at the same time. It's just like, this is massive. Yeah. So, I'm glad that I'm in a better frame of mind. When you said come back on the potty, I was like, mate, be honoured. Love the chat that we had the first time, and I think that I love that you go deep and the effort, the preparation as an athlete. I appreciate that. I've been on several podcasts, and other people don't have that same level of planning, and we always have some good chats.
How was Christmas?
Mate, it was good. It was good and it was bad in a way that it was obviously beautiful to be with family, but hard.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
That first Christmas when you're so used to just being all together as a family, and without him, that was really tough. And even just like as someone who's so driven by getting the best out of myself every day and moving the needle forward and ultimately trying to live a not only successful but fulfilling life. It's very hard to not be taking stock and reflecting on where you were 12 months ago. And it's not that it's worse now, it's just so different. 12 months ago, Christmas Day, I was flying to the Sunshine Coast to spend with my partner. And the day before that, I was with my dad. So it was just a hard period, Christmas. But that's okay. We, on the other side of Christmas, the days after Christmas, and I say this all the time, but that week between Boxing Day and New Year's Eve is my favorite week of the year. It's just unbelievable. And I think it's just like everyone's relaxed. Most people are off work. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It's just a time where you can reflect when I think normally you're so go, go, go.
So true.
And I was so broken physically and mentally after the run around Australia, in the sense of like, because we would have spoke about this a little bit after the run. But yeah, I mean, there was about a 6-month period where I was just constantly sick as well. I was in a moon boot for 12 weeks with real foot pain, and get to the end of the 12 weeks and see my foot specialist. I'm like, this just still feels sore. It's not getting better. What can we do? Thankfully, we gave it cortisone and started to feel a little bit better. But again, that's just masking what's a severe injury. There was so much going on after the run that it was a really hard period. That December, that week between Christmas and New Year's of 2024, so after the run around Oz, I didn't really reflect on what I'd achieved. I couldn't. I was just like going through it. I was in the thick of it. And so between that Christmas Day period and New Year's Eve of 2025, it was like the first time I truly looked back on the Run Around Australia. And there's a company called Vidimaps who wanted to sponsor the Run Around Australia. And since then, I've been working with them. So this will come out soon that I'll be able to share with people very proudly. But basically, Vidimaps combines videos with geographical maps. And so what they've created is every one of my GPX files, so every one of like day 1 on Strava, day 2 on Strava, my Run Around Australia every single day is combined with a video. So it's like you zoom in and you see day 1 started at gate 2 of the MCG. You see I ran all the way to Bunyip by the end of day 1. You click that, that's day 2, and that starts from there. Yeah. And so it's a really cool, like even just on a personal level, to look back, it's like a video diary of the Run Around Oz. But being able to share with people, that will be special. And so I pretty much spent 3 days, just 12 hours a day, exporting every single Instagram story from the run. If there was a reel that day, putting them together in CapCut, re-exporting it, putting it into a Google Drive for them to populate it in. And now every single story and reel from the Run Around Oz will fit into this Vidimap, which would be so cool to show people and to have my website and ultimately just to look back on proud, as I said, yeah.
So re-explain. So you couldn't look back and reflect on where you had been. You said 2025, so that was like, what?
Just recently.
12 months. Yeah.
I'm saying, well, like I was just so, when you're going through it, like there is almost no room to be looking back and truly grateful and appreciating because you're just hurting.
Yeah.
And that just continued to evolve. I mean, ultimately, my old man passed in October of 25, but he wasn't well. So after the run, you're dealing with that. You're dealing with, like, I'm grateful to be living in Sydney and with my partner, but I'm away from family. I'm getting back into work after 6 months of running. I'm dealing with the physical pain and you know, on a even emotional level, what that does to you from a hormonal level when you smash your body so much. I was just cooked, like emotionally cooked. And I describe that as like, I'm generally a very positive guy. I've never been depressed in my life, except for those 6 months after the run. And that's hard, you know, living with someone when you are in such a low state. So, you know, it also brought challenges with Chloe and I was doing my best, but it's just the reality of what the other side of the run looked like. And I think that, I was so low that I couldn't truly appreciate what I'd achieved. A bit of time went on, my body started to come back. I feel, you know, really healthy again. It's funny, as an athlete, one of my best metrics to know that I'm back is I can train twice a day and feel good. You know, I can train AM and PM, recover in between, and get some really good quality in. And now I can look forward to some goals with running as well this year, which I just couldn't do in 2025. I finished the lap around Australia in late 2024, August of 2024, and I didn't go for my first run again until August 2025. And do you know what it was?
What?
It was run for 1 minute, walk for 14 minutes times 3. And that's how it started. Then the next one was run 2 minutes, walk 13 minutes times 3, until the running was more than the walking, and then it was only running. So it's been such a long way to, like, such a hard build back, but now just being able to run again is so huge for my mental health. I'm in a much better frame of mind. I'm excited for what's to come.
I was going to say, during that period, and it's something that I've gone through now as well, it's like, because you're building, and it's sort of, I'm assuming after your run, you would have had people say, oh, you've done such a great job. And I've got that now with what I'm building. And it's like, when you're so in the thick of it, it's so hard to acknowledge anything that you're doing. And like, I look at what I'm doing now and I'm like, oh, but I'm nowhere near where I want to be.
Yeah.
And I fully resonate with where you're coming from. Like, when you're in the thick of it and when you're going through struggle, let's just say, it is very hard to pat yourself on the back and say,
yeah, it's a tough one. I think that any driven or obsessed person, that's always going to be there. You know, you can be proud of what you've achieved, but not satisfied. You want to keep moving. But I think I've learned from the run around Australia. I mentioned just there, I finished in August 2024. But then a few days after that, so August 22nd, I finished the MCG. August 27th until September 3rd, I ran down and back up Tasmania. Mate, time again, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't. And, you know, it was bonding. I got to share with my brother, which was cool that we did that together, and we could go to Tassie and make a difference and raise some more money for Make-A-Wish. And I'm proud of all of that. But like, this was an achievement that I worked my ass off day in, day out for 6 years straight. And it was like, cool, a few days and off you go again. I really didn't appreciate what I'd achieved. And my body was so banged up. It was like, looking back now, it was just a silly decision. And I mean, I wouldn't change it because that's what I wanted, you know. And when I was young and I was 20 years old and I set the goal to one day run around Oz, I thought that Tassie was a part of that. I later found out Tassie isn't a part of the record attempt, and maybe I could have made the call then. But in my mind, my run for wishes was always going to include Tasmania. But now looking back again over a year on, I'm like, no, I'm going to learn from that. And next time I achieve something great, I'm going to genuinely celebrate that and, you know, again, not live there, but spend more than a few days before you're back into that next thing, especially when you've worked hard for 6 years.
Yeah, I've had that over the break as well. Like, I actually thought like, oh, no, everyone's grinding. So everyone's taking a step back. I'll keep grinding. But I forced myself to take like a week off, and I was sort of like, for the first time in a long time. I think that's important for the strivers.
Mate, your body will burn out if you don't. If you don't. And I think that I did similar. Like, once I got out of hospital and I was cleared to fly again after the lung collapse and all that, I had 4 days on the Gold Coast and was just, mate, I reckon I opened my laptop for an hour of each day and just lay by the beach and trained so much. And you need that little reset, little circuit breaker to then keep pushing,
What matters to you now that didn't, say, 12 months ago?
I was running with a friend this morning, and he said to me, you know, what's next? And I was telling him I'm literally moving to the Gold Coast next week. So I'm always on the move, and I'm grateful that I've built a life where I've been able to do that. I work with online coaching and speaking, so I can be moving around, and I'm 28 and I've lived in Melbourne, Sydney and Gold Coast and given it a real crack. And I think I see my future in the Gold Coast, which is cool. But to come back to your question, he said, what's to come? What are you excited about? What have you learned over this period? And I said, well, I used to put, if you were to ask me what my highest two values are, I would say family and health and fitness. But now I would put a higher precedent, like my highest value is my mental health, because I've experienced what it feels like when you are so low. And so now it's like mental health number one, then family, and then health and fitness. And that's why I'm ultimately moving to the Gold Coast. I've realized that I'm a better person when I'm in the sun, training, feeling more like me. And it is hard because obviously family are based in Melbourne. And again, that just drives me to push harder with getting more speaking gigs back in Melbourne and things like that, and be back seeing family. And of course, there'll be trips down, but the day-to-day, my mental health thrives when I'm up there. So why wouldn't I live there if that's going to make me the best version of myself? So looking back, I think that's something I put a much higher value on, is my mental health. Yeah.
You mentioned the 20-year-old version of yourself. Do you think you'd be happy with where you are right now?
100%. Yeah. And I think you asked a similar question last time.
Really?
You said, really, you're satisfied. And like, I think one thing that I have is a real ability to look long-term and reverse engineer goals. When people are in such a, we need that validation right away. And you can look at other people, other creators, get yourself down. But you can also be like, I'm an athlete before I'm a creator. And this is interesting. I've always struggled with the word influencer, and when people categorize me in that, because I'm like, I want to impact and I want to influence people's lives. Yes, but you need to be an athlete to run 84K a day around Australia. You need to be an athlete to win a 200-mile race. You're not just an influencer. That's bullshit. So I think that's something that I actually need to work on, because it's like, well, if you truly want to influence, you've got to create. You've got to do more of that. To come back to your question, I am proud of what I've achieved, but of course, I'm driven to keep going. And I think that, as a 20-year-old, I set out to run around Australia one day for charity and honour my mate. When I set out with that goal, it was never a record attempt. That evolved over the 6 years and became a record attempt. From what I could control, I broke that world record by 10 days. So yes, I'm proud. Like, I'm fucking proud of what I've done, but I'm driven to keep building and keep impacting.
Is there a possibility that you won't be able to do what you've done before?
There is a slight possibility.
Physically, I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Physically, the injuries that I sustained from the run around Australia were brutal, and I would encourage anyone to look these up. So Freiberg's disease, it's effectively in our foot, we have our metatarsal bones, and the metatarsal head is round. Mine is flattened due to so much trauma. So on the run, so much running day after day, there was insufficient blood supply to the bone, which caused it to flatten, that metatarsal head. Then next to our metatarsal head, or connecting into our metatarsal bones, are our ligaments, our plantar plate ligaments. And my plantar plate ligaments were torn as well. And then I had something called Morton's neuroma, which is thickening around the nerves. So my whole ball of foot was just completely smashed. And it's hard because it's such a small area. It just takes time. And it's the most frustrating thing, because right now I feel like I've got my lungs back, I've got my legs back, I feel strong, I feel fit, but I'm just experiencing some foot pain, with every run. It's at least a 3 out of 10, and that's just really frustrating. I haven't got the clearance by my foot doctor, by my physio, to be like, off you go yet. But if this is managed well, it could be a 2-year injury. I might be feeling this 3 out of 10 pain until the end of the year, even doing my rehab, even doing everything they're saying as in end of 2026. But that's when it's managed well. If it's managed poorly, it could be a 5-year injury. It could be something you experience ongoing forever. So it's like, do your due diligence as an athlete. Make sure that you follow that plan to a T. If that's how it is for this year, that sucks. But I look at this year as it's still building. And then, hopefully at the end of 2026, they can say, off you go, Shawnee. Go back to whatever you want to work towards. And I think for me, it's like, I just believe. I believe that I'll get back there. And so I think with that mindset, I know I will.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what if that doesn't happen?
I think that I
don't want to go there.
No. It's a fair question, because the injury was so severe. Like, that is a genuine fair question. I've got to have an orthotic now for life, which is like crazy in a way. It's sort of my big toe and fourth and fifth sit a little bit higher to protect that ball of foot, that second and third, so that they've got more cushioning, more support, and because that's how injured they were. So it is a fair question. But no, I don't even want to answer it, to be honest. I just want to get back there, and I trust that I will if I do the right things. I feel like my purpose is to chase massive goals, to inspire other people to chase theirs, and to directly help other people achieve their goals too, which is why I've partnered with Make-A-Wish in the past. And I think that, yes, you can look at doing that in other areas, like in business and, maybe attacking some different sports and things, but running is what makes me feel the most alive. And I just trust that, I built this body over time. Yes, it was a lot of trauma in a 6-month period, but I'll heal and we'll get back.
What's your relationship with setting big dreams?
Oh, I love it, mate. I love it. It just it honestly lights me up so much. And I think that you look back on that run around Australia and my journey, and so many people said it couldn't happen because that's just their lens of what's possible. And
that's BS, mate.
I'm not knocking them. Like that's just their reality. But again, you can't bullshit yourself either. Like you need to. The only reason I knew I could run around Australia in 6 years is I could look back on a genuine resume of what I've done. And I think that you have to prove that to yourself. 2022, I ran from Cairns to Melbourne as a rehearsal run. And it was like, okay, what did I learn from this? Ran 66 Ks on average a day for 60 days, and I was proud. But I also felt if I looked myself in the mirror, I had more to give. And so I made a commitment to myself. I'm like, when this time comes and you run around Australia, you are running before sunrise, you're finishing after sundown, you are literally just fucking laying it all out there day after day after day to see how far you can go. And so 2023, I set some big goals as well, like run my first 200 miler, achieve 200 Ks in a 24-hour race. I got both of those done, won the 200 miler. That set me up for 2024, so much on a mental level. So I think you can have these big goals and go after it, but you need to truly know that you've done the work to execute when it matters.
I saw you said, I'm 28 years old. I have a wife and 2 kids. I live in Vermont. I'm playing football for the Vermont Eagles, and I'm a high school PE teacher at Vermont Secondary College. That was hilarious.
Yeah, it was, mate. It's funny. My year 12 English class, we had to do that the first day of year 12. And I remember writing that letter. It was like a letter to my 28-year-old self, and I'm 28 now. So my letter was exactly that. I thought I would be playing footy still for the Vermont Eagles. I thought I'd be a PE, an outdoor ed or PE and health teacher. And I thought that I'd have a wife and 2 kids and live in Vermont. So that's what I mean. I come back to, like, I'm still figuring it out. We're young. We're on this mission of trying to be the best we can be. And that's what life's about, figuring it out. No one has it all together. But I'm grateful that a few years back when I transitioned from personal training to online coaching and going, no, I want to build this thing. I want to build a career where I can be traveling as a speaker, where I can be working from my laptop and helping people achieve their running goals so that no matter what, I can live wherever I want to live, and I'll figure that out. And to be 28 and having already experienced the Gold Coast, having experienced Sydney and Melbourne, and then now be clear, no, I'm moving back to Queensland, that excites me. It's the next chapter. And I think that so many people just never really get outside of their own neighborhood of where they've grown up. And again, there's no knock on someone who wants to be a PE teacher. I think it's a brilliant career. It's an amazing career. And it can have a real impact on these kids. But that's just what I thought my life would be. And I'm pretty glad that I've been able to experience a lot more than that.
I heard a podcast today. It was like, I think it was Hormozy talking about no. It was Stephen Bartlett talking about levels.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, you must be so content about, where you are right now. And he was like, it's just a level. So I've gone from here to here, but it's not something to be proud of because it's just part of it's just part of my journey. Like where I'm going is so much taller.
I would challenge that.
Really?
I would say that you can be proud of it, but still be driven and grinding to get to that next step.
Yeah, and that's what he was saying. Yeah. But he was more so saying, someone said to him, you must feel so proud of what you've built. And he was like, this is what Stephen Bartlett
said. Did he say
said.
He doesn't feel proud?
Well, this is a few years ago.
Okay.
This was a few years ago. He's like, this is just part of the journey.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of been the case for me because when I started, I thought 10,000 followers was a lot of followers, you know. I thought $10,000 was a lot of money. And then you see the longer you go, the further you go, the more you're exposed to, you're like, wow. And then you push yourself to do things you otherwise wouldn't. Like, honestly, I'm going to the US later in the year to scope out places to live.
That's sick.
I wouldn't be surprised if I'm living in the US in 12 months.
Wow.
But because my housemate's trying to expand his business into the US as well. So we're like going over there to like seriously consider places to live, if that's even possible. We haven't scoped out the situation because it's
cool.
But like that would be my ultimate goal, just because I just think Australia is way too small with what I want to do.
I love that. Yeah. I think you'll thrive over there, mate. Yeah. But no, I think that's right. Like you can be super driven, you can be obsessed to achieve, but I don't think it's healthy to be like, I'll only be proud when. That's a loop that or I'll only be happy when. That's a loop that you'll never feel.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a loop that sets you up to fail. And I think that I've learned that, achieve this goal, and from what I can control, broke the record by 10 days. If I look at everything else, I wish I raised more money, of course. I set the goal to raise 1.4 million and raised 177,000. Now, I'm proud of that 177,000. That's still going to change kids' lives. But I thought it could have been bigger. I thought it could have impacted more people. But I can't be down on that. That's just a learning experience. Next 100%. Time we go bigger, we go better. And we make sure that, whatever that is, it's marketed right, and you learn from those experiences. So I think that it's just about, being proud of what you're achieving and still being relentless.
Do you think you would have said that a few years ago?
Yeah, I would have. Yeah, I genuinely would have. I think that's something that I feel grounded in. I have this, as I said before, this ability to look long term, and I've finally, with a bit of space after working through all of this stuff of recent times, which has been really hard, started to look at what's next, and it's cool. And, I don't know exactly what that is yet, but I just know that I've got real clarity on, I'm an athlete first, and there's a lot of pride that I take in speaking on stages and impacting, whether it's corporates or schools, and coaching athletes and helping them be the best that they can be. But I also have realized it's like, well, no, a lot of these people are connected to you because you are this athlete first and foremost. And so I don't want to ever lose that. And I have goals outside of obviously professional world too. I want to be a dad one day, and I would love that so much. But I need to look at this. It's like, okay, well, if you want to be a great athlete long term, then how are you going to build this system, build the business to support you to do that and achieve. And then from there, once I can figure out, well, what is that goal, I'm excited to give it everything.
I fully agree with you on that happiness thing. Yeah. Like if you're, there would have been a version of me probably when I even caught up with you.
Yeah.
Honestly, just about 5 seconds before you walked in, I'm trying to document a bit more of the journey. I'm being horrific. I'm like, I'd love to look back on stuff one day. And I think you talked about it, like documenting on the journey when you're in the thick of it, like it's really hard. I pulled out my phone literally the second you like, I could show you the footage. You could sort of hear yourself. I think you could hear the doorbell.
Cool.
About 5 seconds before you walked in, I hit 51,000 followers on Instagram.
Wow.
And I pulled it out and I'm like, hey, I just hit 50,000 followers, 51,000. Like, don't really feel anything, but it's cool,
Yeah.
And there would have been a version of me a few years ago, probably when I hit 1,000, that would have said I would, because the goalposts are like always moving. Hey, so if you say I'm going to be happy when this happens,
it's interesting, mate. And like, I'm a massive fan of what you do, and I listen to your podcast a lot, and I want to share something. So I was running the other day and I was listening to your solo reflection on 2025. And there was so much of it that I loved. And I was like running along, particularly the part when you were talking about, and this is good for anyone who needs to go back and listen to this, when you were talking about, some of the challenges in school and some of the bullies, and I was like, fuck them. Like, you keep going, Dus. You're going to show all these kids who the fuck you are. And that is going to give you unbelievable drive. And I was like, fist pump. But then when you said, if I died tomorrow, I wouldn't be satisfied, that's what triggered me. And I thought, I want to challenge him on that, because that comes back to what we're talking about here. That's almost like I'll only be happy when. Whereas you can be so driven and still keep achieving, like look what you've done even this morning, ticking over to that milestone, but approaching it from the lens of, I'm going to celebrate this and keep working harder. I think that that's going to be much more sustainable long term. You're going to enjoy it long term. And the reality is it might not be to the scale you want it to be yet. And that's the same with me. Mine's not, in terms of impacting other people, it's not to the scale that I want it to be yet. But are you proud of what you can control? Bloody oath. You work your ass off day in, day out. And so if you look at it from that lens, it's like, I can be proud of the person I am today and I'll keep building for that. And so if that was, we touch wood that that's not going to happen. But if that were to happen, that one of us pass soon, you look at it from that different lens. It's like, I've really given it everything that I can and I'm proud of this journey.
Yeah. It was more just like, I know what's coming.
Yeah.
And I would be sad to miss out on that.
Of course.
Like yesterday, I had the biggest influencer in my space agree to catch up with me in America.
That's amazing, yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, like this is cool. But I actually didn't, like I haven't really told anyone. Like I'm not going to like document it to the world because it's not something that I didn't expect. Do you get what I mean? Like I knew this was coming. I set forward this a long time ago when I screenshotted him following me. 2 years ago, he followed me on TikTok.
That's cool.
And I screenshotted it and put it, and I've sent him, I've got big dreams to one day collab with people like you.
Yeah. I mean, mate, like that's what I like about you. You're respectful, but you're relentless. And every entrepreneur, athlete, whatever, who's obsessed is going to feel that and be like, I want to be around this person. I think we had a similar chat together where you're like, I'm so inspired by Tom Noski. And I was like, let's make it happen. And you got him on the pod and love that podcast too. Yeah. I think that what you've been able to achieve, that comes from that drive. I remember you told me you tried to get my number and call me and it was a different Sean Bell.
Yeah, it was.
It's like, that's sick. Like keep that going. I don't think that other people go to that length, know? And that's the difference between you and them. And that's why you'll make it and they won't.
I pissed off a prospective guest a few weeks ago. I cold called his dad. He didn't enjoy that.
Look, sometimes you're going to cross the line.
He didn't enjoy that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, because he's been in media.
Yeah.
And he wrote a book.
Yeah.
And he had a good relationship with his dad. So I found his dad's number and called him and he didn't enjoy it. He cancelled on the spot.
That's tough, mate. I think that, again, it's like you're going to make mistakes and we're going to learn from them like I do. You make mistakes all the time. And I think that what people do admire, though, is the hustle. And in terms of how you approach people, like you'll figure that out. Yeah.
So you don't know I'm lying.
Yeah.
I screenshotted this on my laptop because I wanted to play it. It said Tom Noski.
Oh, cool.
But I played it on my phone. And I thought, because I remember you saying in a speech, hands up if you've been doubted or you've been told.
Yeah, I think I was 21. Speaking gig.
Yeah, and that's why I said before it was BS.
Yeah.
Belief
systems, yeah. Yeah, 100%.
Because I think that was in that speech.
Yeah, it was,
But I heard Tom Noski say this and I thought it would promote some good conversation between us. And it was last night. He posted it.
Oh, cool.
People will cringe and then they'll be jealous. People will criticize and then they'll ask how you did it. People will judge and then they'll shower you with praise. People will laugh at you for trying and then hate themselves for not.
Fuck yeah. Mate, that's so good. That's so true. Don't really have the words. Like that, I've just experienced that, everything you said.
What's the one thing what came to mind when I played that?
Well, I think that like so many people will just be like, that's impossible, and whatever the pursuit is, if it's my goal to run around Australia, as I said, when I said it as a 20-year-old, it wasn't even to break a record. People thought running around Australia alone was impossible. Add layers when you say it's going to be a record and 2 marathons a day. But I think that like, I just got used to that and I was like, all right. And I really thought about it. Again, it comes back to what we were talking about earlier, be intentional, be deliberate. It's like, I know what I want and I know why. And one of the concepts that I speak about is, as a speaker, is why stacking. Like, you don't need to share those reasons why with other people necessarily, but you need to know them to your core so that you don't fucking quit. You know, you might have 20 reasons why, you might have 5 reasons why, you might have 3 reasons why, but they drive you so much. So if I give you a real example, on the run around Australia, it was like honour my teammate, honour my coach Jace, make a difference for these sick kids that I was running for. To be the athlete that I've always dreamed of, for the 16-year-old bench warmer who in our under 17s grand final played 16 out of 80 minutes. For every sponsor who'd backed me and supported me on this mission, for every crew member who'd taken time away from their lives, for anyone else with a dream to inspire them. That's, I think, eight reasons I've just listed off, bang, bang, bang. I had about 20 in my mind that I could turn to anytime. So, you know, that is a really valuable concept, because when you're hurting, which is inevitable in any pursuit, it doesn't have to be a run, when you're doing these big hours as an entrepreneur, like what is that reason why? And I think that because I had a really clear goal and I had these reasons why, I knew that I would figure it out. We don't need to know the how, but we need to know our why, and then the how will reveal itself. And so when people knocked me, I just thought, well, I'll figure it out. Like I know my why, and maybe they don't understand that, but I knew that I'd get there. And
when we were having this, so a few days ago, sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
I was like 99.99% convinced that you ran 84 kilometers a day. But it felt so outrageous to say it that I needed to go back and check, because I knew I'd done the homework last time.
Course.
I was saying to my dad, I'm having this conversation and he's had some hard times at the moment and he did this. And I was like, I'm not even sure if this is real, but I have to go back and confirm, and it was.
Yeah.
But I said 84 and it was like 84 every day.
Yeah, well, that was the average. There was some days I hit 88, 89, I think 91. There was 4 days there where I hit 70K. That were my smallest days. But I can tell you something. So, yeah, I was very clear on once it became a record attempt after Cairns to Melbourne, I worked it out. I was like, okay, well, what is the record currently? And it was 79.5 Ks a day average. So I was like, let's strive for a double marathon a day. That's pretty cool, 84.4. But if I can get even just 80, that's fucking minimum. You've got to hit 80 no matter what. It took me 125 days. On my 125th day, I didn't hit 80. And I was broken mentally to not hit that. I was shattered. But I was like, you know what? To make sure that I can genuinely finish this goal, and run around Australia, it's not really about the 80K a day. It's about breaking this record, raising as much money as we possibly can. And by having such high standards and ultimately at that point averaging, 84 a day, missing it on one day didn't matter, to the point where if I kept going to that, maybe it would have broke me down and I would have been injured and the whole thing would have been over. Like, you're running through injury, but to a point where, as an example, by that point, I'd already run some 88K days, and those 88K days I did quicker than when I was at 70K that day. Like, my body was just exhausted, and it was like trying to scream at me and be like, you need to call it here. But still making that decision was really tough, because it was a smaller goal within the big goal. But yeah, it's funny how I set that goal, 84.4K average a day, and was able to hit that. And 2 marathons a day. It's amazing what those reasons why can drive you to do. And one thing I forgot to mention before, but why stacking was huge, but also I think it's really valuable to be driven by people who've doubted you, but it's also valuable to be driven by people who've backed you. And so I danced between those two all the time. I would think about people who told me I couldn't do it, and I would think about those people who've literally given up 4 weeks of their life, their whole annual leave to crew me. I would think about every person who said, you can do this, I'll back you in. So, that's where I was able to achieve something special, because it was a real team effort.
Well, you would have seen I got plenty of them in my solo one. Bloody hell, mate, it doesn't end. To the person out there with a dream too big for others to see or understand, prepare like no one else and leave nothing to chance, so when your moment comes, you can give it everything you've got. I resonate with that a lot. The dream big. And there's a lot of people out there that dream, but probably don't have, there's probably a lot of people out there that have big dreams, but I heard someone say they're obsessed with comfort or obsessed with certainty.
I think they're obsessed with more short-term validation, or it has to happen quickly, and that's the difference. It's one of the key differences. And I see this all the time, even as a running coach, where it's like people will say, I've got this big goal, I want to also run 80 odd Ks a day, and they just haven't been running long enough. Like the reason that I was able to do that wasn't just because I had strong reasons why and a mental resilience. It was because I had the 6 years of conditioning in my body. You know, you don't win a 200 miler unless you're a strong athlete. That prepared me to run around Australia. So I think that looking at it over years has been, one of the most valuable things that I've learned is too many people set these big goals, but they don't give them enough of a runway. You've got to give yourself time.
Does that make it? Yeah, I think I've grown as a person overcoming the fact that it's going to take a bit longer. And what, like you said, I think that why is like such an important, because if you're caught up in things wanting to happen quickly and you don't have it in your mind that it's going to take a long time, that's when you...
And it always takes longer than you think.
100%.
It always does.
Yeah.
You know, when I set the goal to run around Australia in 2018, I thought it was going to happen in 2021. COVID happened, it pushed it back. But I mean, I didn't get to do it till 2024. I look back now and I'm like, I was 3 years stronger and older and more mature because of that. That was a blessing in disguise. But I thought that I could do it in 3 years. And look, maybe I could because the goal was 60K a day. But I'm much prouder that it took 6 years and it was 84K a day. And that's the difference. I think that if you're prepared to play the long game, obviously still be having milestones and things that you can tick off along the way to feel like, okay, yeah, I'm getting towards that big goal. That's the best way to do it. You've got to give yourself a runway.
Do you think those milestones are important?
Definitely.
Mini goals almost.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that they reinforce that you're on the right track.
Yeah.
And if you miss the mark, then you need to change your approach. You know, you can have this great goal, but you need to change, okay, well, how am I going to go about achieving that? And I think that these milestones, as I said, like for me, running 200 miles in 2023, the reason I did that was mentally, I was like, if I can run 200 miles, which is 323 Ks nonstop. So it took me 53 hours. I had a couple of naps in there, but 53 hours from start to finish. If I can do that, then what's my minimum of 80 Ks a day? This is 4 times that length. You know, 80 Ks a day would get me to the record if I just averaged that. But if I can average even 84, maybe that's possible if I can run 200 miles. Let's prove it to myself first and run 200 miles. And so once I did that and not only achieved it, but won that race, I was like, fucking oath, I'm ready. And so I think if people don't set these milestones along the way, you know, you need to test yourself. You need to see where you're at. And I feel I have so many conversations with people where I'm like, I think that's a great goal. I think you have great reasons why to achieve it. But I think that you're trying to do this in July and you should be doing it in July and 2 more years from now. You need to give it time because your mindset and your reasons why are one thing, but do you have the capacity? You know, and I think that some people will hear it and some people won't. Some people will ignore it, go about it and not be able to achieve the goal because they weren't objectively ready. Others will respect your insight, will give it time and achieve some great things. And, you know, I've had the honor of even supporting some great athletes as an online run coach, like Jermaine Jones, who recently ran 34 marathons in 34 days while working full time. I coached him and Brady Nankervis, 30 marathons in 30 days while working full time as well. And it's these people were prepared to do the time that it takes to achieve these goals. Yeah.
I saw you talk about or say something about go all in and find out who you really are. What is your message to someone who's perhaps on the fence?
On the fence in what way?
Fence, I was trying to think about what the actual question. So like if they've got a goal and they're dreaming big, but they're on the fence about actually taking that next step.
I think you just need to know you don't need to have it all figured out. Like I had no idea of how I was going to do it.
So true.
You just have to know your reasons why. And then what's one action you can take straight away. I've learned a lot from Tony Robbins over the years, and I'm sure I spoke about that on our first podcast. But he always says that if you want to set a goal, you need to act on that immediately. So like an easy example, if your goal sitting here today, you said, I want to skydive one day and like I'm scared of it, but I know that will help my confidence. I want to do it. The one action you would do right now is book that. Yeah. You call them and you'd be like, all right, I'm booking it in. And so I don't think people need to look at the whole picture and figure it out today because you're not going to figure it out today. It takes time and it will evolve too. Like my goal changed. But what you need to do is just be, okay, well, what's that next action that I can take? And for me, you know, when I got really clear on this is what I want to do one day, I want to run around Australia. I set the goal, as I said, 2018. I was still at uni doing a Bachelor of Physical Activity and Health Science. I ran from my house in Vermont to Fitzroy, ACU, ran a half marathon 2 to 3 times a week to do that. And I actually didn't know that that was the wrong approach. Maybe that's the right approach for someone more experienced like me today, but someone without the foundation, someone really quite new to distance running, that's too much volume, and not understanding that you need to run in different ways and build your body through strength training and all of that. I didn't know all of the reasons, or the ways that I was going to get there. But what I was doing was going all in running. I made running my world. I listened to audiobooks. I listened to podcasts. I read books. I watched documentaries. My spare time, like I was obsessed. And so with that, I read a book called Finding Ultra by Rich Roll. I listened to the Rich Roll podcast from there. Rich Roll had Samantha Gash on his podcast. I reached out to Samantha Gash. Samantha Gash connected me with Jace, my coach, and it all just changed from there. So by me, I didn't know how, but I committed to just learning about running and going all in. I came across Rich Roll, which led me to Samantha, which led me to Jace. And that's what I think, you just take it one step at a time.
The prize never goes to the fastest guy. It goes to the guy who slows down the least. True in endurance sports and possibly even truer in life.
Did I write that?
No, that's from Rich Roll.
I was going to say, I don't think they were my words. Yeah, no, it's great words.
Goggins said, "You're in danger of living a life so comfortable and soft that you will die without ever realizing your true potential."
Yeah. I love Goggins. I love Goggins.
I know you do.
I think he's just such a special character. I think people, again, you look at different people and there's things you can take from people and there's things that you can be like, yeah, that's not for me. And I think that that's how we need to look at everyone. And there's certain things with Goggins and his level of obsession where other people will be like, no, I don't want to stretch for 2 hours a night and do all that. But at the end of the day, he's 50, he's in better nick than almost anyone. And he's inspiring and changing lives. So I think that, yeah, Goggins just been a real mentor, and I like how he tells things as they are, and I say that because some people can mentor you directly. You can have a relationship with him. I've never met Goggins, he doesn't know who I am. We've never had anything to do with one another. I've gone and watched him speak a couple of times when he's come out because I just genuinely admire what he's achieved and the way he goes about it. But I think that understanding that a mentor can be just a book that you're reading and learning from that person. True. And if they then help shape that next step, awesome. On Rich Roll podcast, we were just talking about, that's where I found Samantha. That's where I also found Goggins, and Goggins has had a big impact too.
It's so true. I was saying that in a podcast the other day. It is crazy that like I could pull out my phone right now and like listen to a podcast with like Mr. Beast, best creator in the world. It's crazy, like when you actually think about it. And that's probably why a lot of the OG podcasters have gone really well, because they've just been someone that they can pull the phone out and you actually feel like you actually know that. You know that person. Yeah,
I think that like we are in such an incredible time with social media that's how I reached out to Samantha Gash, after Rich Roll, and that changed everything again. So I have so much respect for Sam, and she was a really big part of my journey in connecting me with my coach Jace. Yeah.
What was I going to say there? She was like really important. I remember she pulled you up on that run.
Yeah, she did. Yeah. So it's funny. She lived in the Dandenong Ranges and I lived in Vermont at the time. And we met halfway in Croydon. It's about 15K from Vermont, and I ran there. And she's like, what are you doing? Like I ran there to have a coffee and then I was going to run home, and she gave me a lift home. And she's like, I can see your dedication. I can see you have the right reasons. I just think that you're doing it the wrong way. And she said, I will connect you with someone who can help you. And she did, and it was amazing. And I think that like you don't know what you don't know. Me putting on my shoes and running as hard as I could every day, I thought that was me getting better. But if you're not recovering between those runs, it's going to massively impact you. You're going to plateau at best. You might burn out or get injured. I needed to learn that. And I think that that's what like comes back to what we were saying before. There's so many things that, especially you and I being so young, like we don't know yet. So how can you judge yourself for having not achieved that? It takes time. And I think as long as you are proud of the person you are, how you treat people, then you know that, and the work that you're putting in, everything that you're doing today, you can be excited about what's to come and know that you'll get there in time.
Do you think that naivety of a young person, like, is there things that I would have done when I was 20 that I obviously wouldn't do now? but I sort of like look at it and I'm like, far out. I sort of missed that. I sort of
As
missed
in,
that
like,
version of myself.
You were more risk taking at 20?
Yeah.
Like, can you give me an example?
Even some of the stuff that I did with the podcast in the early days, like the relentlessness. I'm still definitely relentless, but like I've definitely, you talked about, it's the same with you running to wherever to meet someone and running back. It's like, would you go to those levels when you can just, I don't know, DM someone and get the same result? You
Well,
know?
I think part of maturing, getting older, is you work smarter, not just harder.
Yeah, true.
And that's the role of any coach, mentor, is to help people fast track their success so that they don't make the same mistakes that person spent years making. You know, and that's where I take pride in that. And when I'm helping other people with their running, I'll be like, just by investing in this, and I know this is an investment, but you're going to get so much better, so much quicker because you're not making the same mistakes that everyone else will. And I think that. Yeah, it's why I've always, in things and areas of my life that I want to go hard at and I want to get better at and I want to make a real difference, I've invested in coaching. You know, I had next to no money and I was investing in speaking coaching. Like I really want to have an impact on stage, so I better learn how to communicate. And this is something that growing up is, I think as I'm getting older, I'm just realizing that's what entrepreneurs do. Like the number one bet you take is on yourself. You invest in yourself. I've heard Tom Notsky say that a lot. You know, you can put some money into stocks, you can put some money into property, but are you putting money into yourself? Are you developing your skills? And I think that that's been so valuable for me is, you know, I wouldn't be the person I am today without investing in quality coaches and mentors.
Yeah, I think almost you said, like, if you've got a certain amount of money, I think it was like less than 100,000. It's like, don't do anything else apart from investing in yourself.
That's so interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was what it was.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if Tom would say something similar.
Yeah.
Personal development. And yeah, I've been toying up with the idea of like a performance coach or something, just to sort of deal with some of the stuff I spoke about in the podcast. But I think I've like got to a point where I'm using it in a good way.
Yeah.
I think
you've got a lot more balance now, like what you were saying before. You didn't have that with the potties at the start. It was just burnout.
Yeah,
whereas now it's like, you know, and because of that season when you were just so relentless, you're now, you know, a way better podcast host from that. So that's like understanding different seasons of life. Sometimes you're just all in and that's all you do with that. And other things have to give. But, you know, it's
so true.
It's good, mate.
I was laughing because I think the last time we did our podcast, I was like 25 weeks ahead.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, that does not need to happen.
No.
Like,
yeah, that's crazy.
yeah, that was nuts. But you're right. It's so true. I have regrets from that period. For sure.
In the sense of because of burnout or
just like I'm not Joe Rogan. You know, I'm not complaining. Like you talk about learning, like I did 60 in a year, but I started in April.
Yeah.
You know, like I was doing 2 a week and I was working full time.
That's amazing, mate. Yeah.
It was nuts. But the regret in the trying to prove things and the regret in obviously like having to do a voiceover before our one that was released, saying it was like 15 weeks ago. It's like it just doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
And that's why but I've cut back. I don't do as many now. But without doing all that sort of stuff, I have always been someone that has made a shit ton of mistakes and learned by getting people like telling me off essentially.
Well, I think without that period, you don't learn the costs that's like the impact of that period and what it's going to do to your body and you know where you're at mentally. I use that example as well. I will always push my limits. I want to race and do some big races and inspire people and make a difference. And maybe I will also create my own event again one day as a charity run, but it will never be 6 months long. It will probably never be longer than 2 weeks. I'd say if I'm doing my own event that's not a race, it's probably a week max because I've seen how much damage that's done to my body. I've seen how much that's not only impacted me on a physical, mental, emotional level, but how much that's impacted people around me who've, given up so much of their lives, the ask of crew members, the strain that puts on relationships, it's just huge. And I think that you don't know unless you do it. And I have no regrets. Like, I'm so proud of that achievement, as I'm sure you're proud of those weeks you were just stringing together doing 2 episodes a week while working full time. But you learn from that and you get better going forward.
I would sleep at the Parliament Station.
Yeah.
I'd bring an eye mask to work and sleep. Because I launched a product during that period as well.
Wow.
The beef tallow. So I would sleep in the park during my lunch break. It was absolutely nuts. Yeah. And sometimes I would eat on a bench and I would fall asleep on the bench.
Yeah.
I think that was like the writing on the wall. When,
yeah, that is, man.
My boss saw me walking in and I was like a zombie at 9 a.m. It's so bad. You talked about something before. You 6 months. You wouldn't do a 6-month challenge.
No. Yeah. Never again.
So I made a promise to myself that next time on the big lap, I'd empty the fucking tank every day, no matter what, running before sunrise, finishing after sunset. And this is the part that stood out to me when you said that. I highlighted it because I remember writing it. I hate how much damage I did to my foot, and that 16 months on, I still feel it every day. But this is the cost of emptying the tank, and I would make the same choice again because it's who I am and because I know I will be back.
Yeah. I think it's like you empty the tank, but you empty the tank within a 1-week challenge or a 2-week challenge, not 166 days. And even just logistics, let's push my body aside for a moment and talk logistics. Like, I had to treat this like a business for 6 years to build to that level. And I had to coordinate 32 team members' annual leave to make sure that we could get this right. And I had to obviously back that up as an athlete and hit my 84 Ks a day so that I would be where I'm meant to be for this person to fly out and this person to fly in for the crew changeover. There's so much that goes into it that I think that people don't understand, because how could they? Like, it's such a big project, so far away from the common person. But you can still get that fulfillment of making a difference, pushing your body and mind in a smaller challenge where it's like a week or two, and you're just not going to have that same impact on your body and the same ask of other people and the same strain on relationships and things like that. So I think time again, that's what I meant by that, is like, that reflection that you just read there, that was what I was talking about earlier, is like Cairns to Melbourne. After that 66K a day, I knew that around Oz, I would leave it all out there and empty the tank, which I'm so proud that I did in 2024 around Australia. But emptying the tank by doing it day after day for 166 days, that's caused severe damage to my foot. So that's where it's like, I now place, as I spoke about earlier too, so much value on my mental health. And this experience of being so injured and so sick and so sore and everything that's come from it has really highlighted that even more. And it's like, I don't want to do a 166-day challenge again, because if that's the other side, that's not worth it to me. What makes me a better person is getting out for my morning run.
I asked how you're going before, and the mental health you just brought up there. So you're in a
much
you're
better
good
space.
now?
Yeah, much better space.
But before Christmas, let's just say.
Yeah, really tough.
Yeah,
I think, and like, it's never linear, right? Like I say, I'm good today. I do feel good today. I'm being honest with that, but I might go through another really tough period next week. I felt like I was making ground, but then Christmas just really hit me. As I said, I think that, and it wasn't that life was worse. It was just so different to 12 months earlier. And when you are someone who always just gives your very best, and like, the relationship didn't work out, and also looking at dad, and it's like, he's now not here. Christmas was just so hard. But, I still had a great time with my family and cherished that time, because again, you go through something like losing your dad, and it brings you closer as your family. And me moving back to Melbourne for the last few months, I've been living with my younger brother and his partner. And that's been an experience. But I think that, again, it's like, that's a time that I know in years to come I'll look back and cherish, because you're living with your brother outside of home. That's cool. And you can, like, you're both men now, and you're growing up, and I'm coaching him to run across Bali in 2026, 80 Ks. Like, this is big, and these sorts of things wouldn't have happened otherwise. So you can look back at it like that. See this period of my life, the last few months, that has been tough, as it is what it is. But I'm grateful that I spent that time with family, and now move forward for this next chapter in Queensland and keep building.
I said to my housemate the other day, it's sad to think that this is the glory days. You know, when two mates living in a house, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. Like,
It's not sad. It's just
it's
like,
interesting. I was listening to McConaughey on Jay Shetty's podcast last night when I was driving, and he talked about how he's in his 50s now. His 40s was his favorite decade. And so you think that, you know, glory days and 20s, or in your case, early 30s. I don't think it has to be. I think you just keep building, and, you know, like, I can't wait till whenever that time comes that I'm a dad, and, you know, whether it's like 30s, 40s, that's the chapter that it will be really exciting too. But so is this chapter now, and working out what that next big goal will be, and attacking it full throttle. Yeah.
do you know what that is?
I don't know yet, mate. No, I'm excited to figure it out, and I'm excited to, once my foot heals, go all in.
I'm trying to find a quote on Matthew McConaughey. You just got to keep living. That's what he says. That was, yeah. What else did you pick up from that man, Matthew McConaughey?
I've listened to quite a bit of his stuff.
You listen to like some of the same stuff that I do.
Yeah, I think I like how he talked about, there was one thing he said yesterday on the podcast with Jay Shetty, like, you can do so much, you just can't do it all at once. And that's something that stood out. It's like, again, looking at the run, like, epic, but the sacrifices, I couldn't work. I was just running for 6 months, and the impact after that was really tough. So I look at this period, it's like, okay, if this is the future for me, and I spoke about before, athlete first, speaker, coach, below, you know, and that's sort of order. I want to work towards that career. It's like, okay, well, you still need to have a solid business and systems in place to support that dream. If I'm a bit more injured right now, and my load is managed by this foot doctor and physio, let's build the rest of it, and let's get to a position where, you know, things are moving really well, so that I can, when that time comes, when my foot heals fully, be doing 20, 30 hours a week of training. You know, because that's the reality. If you want to achieve greatness, whether it's creating my own run or that next goal that I'll figure out, like, you've got to be putting in 20, 30 hours a week. That's what I was doing to run around Oz. So, you know, I need to understand that, okay, if that's the future, but I also want to be a dad, I also want to achieve, you know, things in business, how the hell are you going to do this? You got to reverse engineer it, like I did with the Run Around Oz.
Yeah.
And so this is my season right now, is set it all up a lot more, set up the business, set up, you know, how I want to achieve this, because going forward, you know, I'm going to need team members if I'm also running 20, 30 hours a week, you know, not just running, but training.
Yeah, it's interesting, because I'm at that point where I'm like juggling so much. I'm like, how do I find the sweet spot, you know? And also, like, how do I cut back? I'm not sure if you, but like, there's so many people that that just, and it's stuff that you probably would have said yes to a while ago, but there's just like the amount of people, when you put yourself out there, that say, oh, can we have a coffee, or can we do this sort of stuff? And it's like,
You got to own your time.
yeah.
This is something I talk about a lot as a coach. It's like, to my athletes, you know, we look at Jermaine, who did the 34 marathons in 34 days. I'm like, mate, this is so amazing and so inspiring, and you're going to have so many people who want to run with you. And, you know, I think, like, well done for creating that. But as soon as your marathon is finished, you're going home and you're recovering. You need to own that time and be selfish with that time, because that's the only way you can be unselfish and make a difference and achieve your goal that everyone's cheering you on for and wants you to do. If you actually respect your body, respect your recovery. And I think that, you know, as someone, not just an athlete, but an entrepreneur going to get it, you've got to be selective. You've got to be selfish with your time. You've got to, you know, sometimes say to a friend, and I think that listening to your episode with Oscar, this is what I loved about Oscar. He said in the past he would have just gone and had that coffee and been a people pleaser. Whereas now it's like, just be honest with people, because people respect honesty.
Yeah.
If I'm moving to the Gold Coast next week and I have friends who want to catch up with me and I can't make that happen, I'm going to be honest and tell them, but I'll have a chat with them on the phone when, you know, it's a mutually supportive time, when we're both driving or something like that. And we'll make that connection happen. But if I can't catch up right now in that way of a coffee, it is what it is. Maybe they can join me for a run, or I can join them for their gym session. We'll make it happen if it's important enough. But the reality is, I think that, like, it's just part of life. You've got to own that time.
I listened to a podcast this morning, and as this guy's, he described it as a crippling lack of self-worth as to why he wanted to be a billionaire. And I don't know why I did that, but he got one of his staff members to compile every single interview that he could find with billionaires and listen to them constantly. And because he's like, I think if you listen and immerse yourself, I listen to a lot of massive creators because I like immerse myself in how they think and all that sort of stuff. I think his view of the world, or his view of it all, was that if he listened to as many billionaires as possible, he would just start thinking like them. He was like, the most similar thing that I picked up from all of them is just how ruthless they were. Like
That's
they
so
are
cool.
incredibly ruthless.
Well, it makes sense, right? Like, I haven't looked at it like that, but I've done the same thing with athletes.
Yeah.
I immersed myself in Rich Roll, Goggins, Samantha Gash, everything I could get my hands on because I wanted to be this athlete. So it's exactly what you're doing as a creator.
On the other side of suffering is a world that other people don't even know exists. The beauty in suffering lies in your refusal to quit and having the self-respect to continue to endure.
I remember writing that on the run.
Really?
Yeah, I think that
You're going to write a book?
I'd love to one day. Yeah, I think that, it's one step at a time. My big thing in 2026 is releasing the documentary of the Run Around Australia. So I'd love to write a book one day. I think that, again, it's another way to leave a legacy. It's another way to impact people. But you also need the team and the systems and the ability to do it. So I think that will come. In terms of extra projects outside of my day-to-day work in speaking and coaching, it's getting this documentary off the ground, and we're aiming for an August release this year so that it's 2 year anniversary. So can't wait to share that with the world.
What else is exciting you?
I think that move next week, just on a personal level, mental health level, as we spoke about. I'm someone who thrives in warm weather and hanging out by the beach. I want to one day attack or get into surfing and be able to do a bit of that. So I've never been a surfer. I'm a battler when it comes to that sort of thing. But again, it's just being really deliberate about, okay, well, where do I see my future? And then how do I reverse engineer that? Because that's how I did that with the Run Around Oz, and that's what I need to figure out now. It's like, okay, cool. If you want to continue this online coaching and support people, but also be a global speaker, which is, my dream, then that's great. But how are you going to become that global speaker? So that's the reps and becoming a better speaker. It's also learning how to market yourself better and doing all of that. And again, systemizing things so that you can do the coaching as well. And that's all just part of figuring it out. And I think comes back to what we were talking about earlier. You don't need to know, you don't need to have it all figured out, but you've got to take that next action.
I was going to ask where you see yourself, but you just answered it there.
Yeah. I would love that. The number one thing, and I've said this a few times, is like athlete, speaker, coach. I'm a ruthless athlete. That's my passion. Ever since I was a little boy, I want to be an athlete. I wanted to be an AFL player. I wasn't good enough to play AFL, but I created this goal of running around Australia and made it happen. So whatever that next goal is, I want to attack that with everything. And I'd love to be a speaker alongside that to be able to truly impact. But the difference there is, like, you can't just be a speaker providing motivation. You can't just be talking about, this is what I achieved and you go and achieve something special too, because at a corporate level, that doesn't fly. It really doesn't. It might be inspiring for a little bit, but it's also got, you've got a period of time where you can do that too. And so I think that the biggest thing is like, well, when I strip it back, what did I really learn from running around Australia in a 6-year build? It was about goal setting and reverse engineering. It was about leadership. It was about teamwork. And it was about, refusing to quit when you're in the hurt locker.
What do you think is the biggest gap stopping you from getting to where you want to get to?
That is a great question. I think right now, one of the things that I struggle with, and prior to running around Australia, I was a personal trainer. And I've always, worked for myself, been a contractor. Prior to that, I was a PT at 45, but, I've never lived that corporate life. Like, I know you were in real estate game. That's something that I need to get better at, because I'm not, I have never lived that, but it doesn't matter if you have really clear parallels and you can draw on your experience to support these people. I think that where speakers sometimes get it wrong is they go in, they just back that they've got the story. And so they're like, you're there listening and you're thinking, oh, like that's amazing and I'm inspired, but that's got nothing to do with me. You've missed the mark. If you also go too far the other way, you try and do too much research. I try and, I'm going to speak to a property group and I'm trying to talk about their world when I'm not in their world. They'll be like, fuck off, mate. You're not in this world. Like you can't talk to us in that way. So it's a balance. It's a real dance between you've got to know what you're talking about. You got to know who you're talking to and respect their world and draw some examples and parallels between what I've achieved as an athlete to what they're going through and the struggles that they're going through in their day-to-day work without overstepping. So enough to show your respect, but also at the same time, you're not doing it too much and you're also just not doing it at all and talking about yourself because that'll never work. So I think in terms of getting to that next step, again, it's just learning, learning from other speakers, learning from speaking coaches, getting better and doing the reps, doing the time and respecting that it will take time. As much as I'd love to be doing it on global stages in 2026, it's going to take time and that's fine. It took me 6 years to run around Oz. We need to look at it the same way.
I was going to say, having that long-term view for something like that.
Huge.
That's the only way it's going to happen.
It's the only way. And I think that speaking is one that you've got to command a room and that takes time. These skills take time to develop. And I've had some amazing mentors as well in that space. I had a friend in Sydney, Andrew May, who now does about 60 keynotes a year. And he's been at keynote speaking for 20 years. Like, got to do the years.
Very inspiring journey, man.
Thank you,
I don't think I'll ever get sick of talking to you. This is one I was going to start with a bit earlier as well. You've done a lot of podcasts. What do you wish people were more curious about? Is there a side of you that you haven't shown before?
There is a little bit, but I say this with great respect. There's going to be something that comes out in the documentary that people will never have heard before. And I think that I want to save that for the documentary because this is my biggest body of work.
I meant just in general, but not something that hasn't happened. It's more is there something that you wish you could probably speak more about? Is that it?
Well, that's a big part of it because I think that when people understand and watch this thing, they'll be like, I get him to another level now.
Okay.
And I say that because people can be like, oh, okay, you've lost a friend, you've lost your coach, I've lost people. That hurts, but that still doesn't make me up and run around Australia. And I would get that question a lot. Is there more to you? What else has gone on? You'll see that on the documentary. And I think that I want to do that in the documentary. It's a way that encapsulates 6 years of hard work, and it's the biggest long form content way of telling this story that I worked my ass off to achieve, and telling it the way I want to tell it. Yeah,
I was going to say you saw an insight into my early childhood. Is that something you went through as a child, or
not bullying? But yeah, definitely struggles at home. So I'll leave it there for now. But I think that those struggles at home have made me the person that I am, and led me to being relentless, led me to running. I say, and I can say this, that running has not only made me the person that I am, there is a reason I believe that running has become my entire life. I'm an athlete as a runner, I'm a running coach. And obviously as a keynote speaker, yes, you're drawing things about leadership, teamwork, goal setting, but it's generally from that run around Australia and my runs that I've achieved. So I'd never thought that running would be a career. How could I make this happen? We look back to what we said at the start of the podcast. It was thought I was going to be a PE teacher at 28. But running the streets at a young age has just been massive for my mental health. It was something that led me to this point today.
Is that part or something that happened? Would you be telling that story if your father hadn't passed away?
Yeah, and I got his permission.
Just before he passed away?
That's a great question. Yeah.
Okay.
I wanted to make sure I did. Yeah, I got his permission. I just think, again, it's I have so much love and respect for my dad. We all have struggles. And that's one of the things why I want to talk about it on the documentary is I will make sure it's said in the way that is the most respectful that I can. Because I think that when people truly see it, they're like, fuck me, he's done so much work on himself.
Yeah.
He can come at what was a really hard upbringing and look at it and be like, I have so much love and respect for you because you've made me the person that I am. Where other people would be like, went through this, fuck you. It's like, you know what? Life is not black and white. Maybe some of these things happen because that person went through this too. It wasn't their intent. That's the impact. And intent doesn't erase impact. The impact was there. But I still love him so much because I started looking at him and be like, you've made me the person that I am. And I told him that. And so I'm saying I told him that before he'd passed. And I said, look, Dad, I need to share this. I'm so grateful that before he passed, we interviewed him. He'll be in the documentary as well. Wow. That interview, you know, I'm grateful that we can share with the world. And I had the videographer who was asking the questions and filming tell my dad, you know, how much of my success that I credit to him, because again, it's made me the person that I am. It's driven me to this level. So I love my dad so much. I love the impact that he had on my life, and I can't wait to share a deeper side of what's happened and why I am who I am.
Was he emotional in that interview?
He was, mate. Yeah, really? He was.
Doesn't surprise me.
No,
so I'm assuming he knew that he was pretty sick.
Yeah, we interviewed him in February of 2025. He passed in October. So my dad had lung cancer. But again,
so I thought it was like a few days before.
No. It was earlier. It was 6 months earlier. But again, it was like I wanted to make sure that we got it done. Just special for him to be told that as well by my mate, and then obviously, you know, him to be like, I didn't know this, and us chat through it, and then just to hear his version of events and, you know, how he experienced mine and my brother's childhood and all that growing up, and I just think that, like, I'm an honest guy, and I think that the full truth needs to be told when it comes to why you are, you know, who you are. I think that there's ways that you can impact and share certain things with more respect. You're making sure that, okay, it comes out in that way, which is why we're doing the documentary format. But I think that if this is the truth of the reason you are, you need to tell people, because if there's other people who are going through that, then they're going to think, fuck, I'm inspired by you. You've just made me believe that I can do this too. And there will be other people, you know, out there who very similar, you know, grow up thinking that they can't achieve much. They miss out on their AFL dream by a long way, and they're just not good enough. And if you just think you're not good enough, which is what, and I resonated that with you in your podcast, and I think so many great athletes, so many entrepreneurs have that belief. That was the belief that I grew up with. Yeah, but that belief, you know, understanding that I wouldn't be who I am and doing the stuff that I'm doing without it, and it's the same with you.
Powerful words, man.
Yeah.
Saw something that I think would be good to close it on.
Yeah.
There's a quote from you, and mate, there's plenty of them. There's plenty of them, don't you worry. Life's thrown some heavy punches lately. This isn't for sympathy. It's just the battle I found myself in, and I'm sharing it because it's real. I was fascinated to learn about the link between the lungs and grief. Thanks to the people who sent me this information. If you're on your own in the storm right now, hold on. Better days are coming for the both of us. Giddy up. You're giving me that face when I read the quote about your coach in the first podcast. I remember it well.
I think that it was just such a shit time, and like I know there will be storms again in life, and I know other people, you know, go through so much more as well, but that's a big part of who I am. I want to be real. I want to share. And I get a lot of messages like that being like, mate, thanks so much for not just sharing your running achievements, but sharing the shit that you're going through, because I feel I can connect with you, and it sucks that you're going through this, but I'm just grateful you're sharing this because we're all going through stuff, and we really are. Like, we need to understand and remember that Instagram is a highlight reel, but if you want to truly connect with people, you want to truly be your authentic self, you need to share what's going on. And with everything that I went through, like that period of my life, I posted so much less as well. I just didn't have capacity. I was so low. But now that I'm, you know, rising from that, I want to talk about it more, which is why, again, I'm grateful that we've jumped on this podcast. Hopefully it helps just one person, and, you know, anyone going through right in that storm, as I said in those words, like, know that better days are ahead for us both.
Did you film much in that period of yourself?
Did I film much? Not really. A lot of photos through hospital. Maybe a little bit. I mean, it was to the point where like what's it called? I left the hospital against advice on the Thursday morning, and on the Tuesday night, the 3 different independent lung doctors, because I told them, no, Dad's funeral's on Thursday, I'm going out. They've said, you're not going anywhere. Like your lung is not reinflating. It's not getting better. You're staying here. If you discharge against advice, like that could be really dangerous. You're not doing that. And so I'm like weighing up, fuck, like it's my own dad and it's his funeral. Like I can't miss this. But then what if they're right? Like what if I end up, what if something really bad happens to me? I've got to sort of listen to that too. So I then called my brother who'd been organising the funeral, and I was like, is there the opportunity of live stream? We need to get this done because I've just heard that I'm not going on Thursday. And like we cried together and he's like, you're kidding me. I'm like, well, this is what they're saying. I told my best mates to join me in the hospital room and watch the funeral with me on live stream. And I was mentally preparing for that. And that was Tuesday night. By Wednesday night, like some miracle, my lung had reinflated to a way better level than what it was the day before. And they said, there's a chance you're going in the morning. So Wednesday, I had recorded a video of my speech of what I was going to say. And like they'd put that in as part of that moment. And so there were certain things I was filming, documenting, but I think when you're so low, you genuinely can't access it. And that's what I'd never experienced anything like that. Just so much going on at once. It was so hard. But I'm grateful that my body got better. I'm grateful that I was able to get out and experience, that funeral as hard as it was, be there with my family. And I'll tell you a quick funny story. I don't drink much as I'm a very driven athlete. But my old man loved a beer, and I was like, I'm gonna make sure I have a few beers today. So they have the service, and then they have the wake. And they said, so how it works with your lung collapse, you have a chest tube that goes in. So it goes into the chest wall. So the lung collapsed because air that was meant to be in the lung had gone into the chest cavity. So it's in the wrong spot. So they have a chest tube in that drains that air, which helps the lung reinflate again. And so they took the chest tube out on Thursday morning at 8:45 because I said, I'm going to the funeral. If you're saying it's looking better, I'm going to the funeral. So they take the chest tube out and they say, look, go to the funeral. We understand the significance, but do the right thing. Get another chest x-ray in 4 hours, because if you don't, 4 hours minimum, like you can't do it before 12:45, but you've got to get one today. If you don't get a chest x-ray and things are going south again, you might end up in another situation where you can't really breathe and you might pass away. So this is very serious. You've got to take it seriously. I'm like, oh, shit, okay, well, I feel all right. Like, cool. So I go to the funeral, go to the wake. I'm thinking the service finished at 11:15. I can't get an x-ray till 12:45 at best, so let's have a beer. Let's have another beer. Turned into, I didn't leave the wake until about 3:15 and go, and they're like, look, have my chest x-ray, and they say that, no, your lung's collapsing again. And I was shocked because I felt well. They said, you might feel well now, but this could be really bad at 2 a.m. We've got to put the tube in and you're coming back into hospital. It was another 10 days from there. But yeah, I'm on the phone to my little brother and I'm like, oh, look, Az, I can't go, come back to the wake. Like I'm actually being readmitted into the hospital. They found 5 schooners in my lungs. He goes, did they?
Wait, but that's a joke.
Yeah, of course it's a joke. And he's just like, did they? Like it was just, it was so crazy to go through that. So much happening at once, and then to be readmitted that night. But I'm just grateful that I could have that day and, spend it with family and friends and talk about Dad and share a beer. And
that night must have been tough.
Yeah. Oh, mate, going back in there and I'm like, what the fuck?
I don't want to laugh. But
genuinely it was. But yeah, we're in a better spot now, mate. So I'm excited for what's to come.
Good things to come. Thanks for joining me, brother. We'll have to do another one of these when the doc comes out.
Thanks for having me, mate.
Mate, you worst nightmare, because not worst nightmare, but I'm someone that loves to dig, but I know I shouldn't dig.
Yeah.
I'm not going to dig.
Dig at what?
On what you said before, like there's something that no one's ever heard before.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited to share it.
Yeah. Like
Well, to the depth of that.
Yeah. When I hear that, I just go.
I've spoken about my dad before, which is why you knew to go there, but never to this level. So yeah. And I think that like, again, I'm glad that I got his permission and it will be said respectfully, but it will help people understand, okay, that's why Sean is how he is. Yeah.
Thanks for joining me today, man.
Thank you,
Appreciate it. So good. Hour 35.
Giddy up.
That went quick.